next week, next Thursday night and Friday, is the 10th of Tavas. And it's quite a sad day. It's a shame that the temple had to be destroyed. It's a shame that we haven't, apparently, we haven't learned our lesson. And we have to do something about it. We have to rebuild the temple. And we have to put ourselves in a position where first of all, we should even ask for such a thing. I don't think, unfortunately, that the majority of our people, even including the religious ones, are actually thinking about such an eventuality and how it could become practical. So it's incumbent upon all of us to do so. My general thesis is that, as usual, the calendar makers have omitted critical halachic information in the usual printed calendars. Up until now, we discussed, for example, how, at least in my opinion, they have not been telling people when the fast days have actually ended. When you have a public fast day, it's pretty clear from the Talmudic sources that public fast days are supposed to end at sunset, unless we're talking about the 9th of Av or Yom Kippur, in which case the fast day ends when the stars come out, which is nightfall. Sometime after that, it's not so long after that, but that's how it is. Yet, when it comes to any of the fasts, this distinction is lost. They basically say that every fast day is over at nightfall, without exception. And aside from the fact that for most of the fast days, that doesn't seem to be the halachic case, specifically for the 10th of Teves on Erev Shabbos, there is much more halachic precedent for the fast ending even earlier. And that's what we're going to see now. So let's look into this right here. This is from Maseches Tainis. This is the a Mishnah there. That's why it says, Matnitin. This is taken from the Bavli and Yerushalmi. I think I copied this from a source. Not mistaken. Thank God, and thank the people who made Machon Mamre, because it allows us to create these source sheets. So that's what we're going to see here. It says in the Mishnah there, Ingos rin tanith broshe chodeshim b'chanako v'furim. Let's say you had a situation, unfortunately, like our own, where we have to have public fast days because of time of national emergency. Even local emergencies also warrant a fast day, but we're talking a national emergency right now. You're not supposed to make these fast days on new moons, on Hanukkah, or on Purim. But if for whatever reason they actually did, they started a set of fast days. So if, let's say, one of those Mondays or Thursdays ends up being Rosh Chodesh, so according to this opinion, we don't stop our fasting. We continue fasting through Rosh Chodesh. Divra Rabbi Gamliel. That's what Rabbi Gamliel said. Amar Rabbi Meir, Alpha Pi Shomer Rabbi Gamliel Im Afsikin. Even though Rabbi Gamliel said that, yes, we go ahead with our fast days despite it being Rosh Chodesh or Hanukkah, in which case, by the way, someone asked me this past week, we had Monday and Thursday. The Beis Havad has put out a letter recommending that we fast these Mondays and Thursdays. Many of us have. The question is, what about on Hanukkah? The problem is, this hasn't been adopted by any specific locality. Certainly not the Batei Din that have authority here. I don't know of any particular town even where they've kept Monday, Thursday fast days. In practice, it's just been individuals. If we'd actually have started as whole communities doing such a thing, then this would be in play. But the Lemaisa, it hasn't been adopted. Even though it should have been adopted, it has not been. You're perhaps, maybe even there's some places in Jerusalem, maybe they've been doing it. But to my knowledge, there isn't anybody who has such a communal-wide adoption of these Monday, fast days to warrant them continuing through, let's say, this past Hanukkah. Rabbi Meir says, Afal Pishama Rabbi Gamliel Ein Mafsikin. Even though Rabbi Gamliel said Ein Mafsikin, which means in practice they would be fasting on these events like Hanukkah and Purim, Modehu She'in Mashlimin. He does acknowledge that they are not supposed to complete their fasts. So what does completing mean? That's why I am over here. I should put this word in bold. Right? Rabbi Gamliel acknowledges that the fast is not complete. So normally, when the sages say completing a fast, they mean fasting till the natural end of the fast, whatever that might be. For example, Tisha B'Av that falls on Erev Shabbos. Right? So you're supposed to complete the fast, according to Rabbi Meir. Says even though Rabbi Gamliel said this, if you're for whatever reason you're fasting on Tisha B'Av, and it's Erev Shabbos, so the fast has to be completed. We're going to see what does it mean completing the fast? Also, I'd like to point out that if there's a particular halacha that applies to Tisha B'Av, because Tisha B'Av is the most strict of the fast days, it does not follow that other fast days would enjoy such a rule. We're more machmir with Tisha B'Av. Perhaps if there's a rule, for example, Tisha B'Av starts at sundown of the day before Tisha B'Av. It starts, basically at the end of the 8th of Av. We can't say that that applies to all the other fast days. Most of the other fast days, they only start at the end of the night, with the morning, as we're familiar. So next week, if Asara B'Tevet comes along, so we're going to have to have, we're going to be able to eat Thursday night, and it's going to be on Friday morning when we actually start fasting, or for those who go to sleep. We've discussed these halachas before. So just because din is said a bit concerning Tisha B'Av, it does not necessarily follow that the same would apply for the other fasts. So we have to keep that in mind. Hold on one second, please. Let's just see here. Okay. We're missing someone. Okay, we have a bus problem? No, okay, continuing. Here's the discussion in Yerushalmi, the relevant discussion. Tani, Tisha B'Av shechal yot Erev Shabbat, ochel afilu beitza achat v'shoteh afilu kos echad, kedei shelo yikanes l'Shabbat meuneh, divrei Rabbi Yudah. Now, we have here Rabbi Yudah's opinion that if Tisha B'Av is actually on Shabbos, he's basically saying that a person should break his fast to a smaller extent before the Sabbath enters, so that he not go into the Sabbath in a state of affliction. Normally, a person should complete his fast, but Tisha B'Av is Erev Shabbos. What should he do? He should break his fast. He should not go to shul so fast. Let him eat beitza achas. Let him eat an egg and drink a cup of water. That way, he could go to shul and, I guess, greet the Sabbath properly, or whatever it is his ritual happens to be for Erev Shabbos. That's Rav Yudah's opinion. By the way, if we do have a kula that exists on Tisha B'Av, conversely, if a kula exists on Tisha B'Av, then kal v'chomer, it applies to other fast days. Isn't that interesting? We find the chomer for Tisha B'Av, we can't necessarily apply to the other ones. And we find the kula from Tisha B'Av, we can't apply it to the other fast days. That's Rav Yudah's opinion. Rabbi Yossi Omer mit'aneu mashlim. Rabbi Yossi is more consistent with this last line we had in the Mishnah. He says, no, Tisha B'Av is on Erev Shabbos. He's supposed to be fasting, and he completes his fast. In this case, completing the fast is in contrast to what Rabbi Yudah declared, that a person should not go into Shabbos fasting. That means he has to fast until Shabbos begins. What does it mean, Shabbos beginning? That we're going to see. Hold on, let's greet our newcomers. We have a bag of junk food for you guys. And some clementines. The clementines aren't junk food. I'm very sorry. Yes, Cheetos? Oh, my wife said Binyamin like you guys. Okay, good. Binyamin provided this, and I was unaware of it. What? Binyamin's the guy in charge of everything. Yeah. And so he provided us with the munchies, and my wife is the one who reminded me that it was actually here and put in the bag for me, so I wouldn't forget it this time. Yeah. Okay, so we're live, by the way. So just for those of us who've just walked in, you should be aware. Do you have a source sheet, by the way? I sent source sheets to everybody. It's on your phone. Really? Okay. So here, this is Rabbi Yossi's opinion about mithaneu mashlim. Tisha B'Av is on Erev Shabbos. He has to go all the way with his fast. Rabbi Zeira b'shem Rav Yudah says that Rav Ba, that should be Rav Abba, Rav Imi, Bar Yechezkel b'shem Rav. Halacha k'mi shehu omer mithaneu mashlim. When the fast day, this Tisha B'Av, is on Erev Shabbos, he's not supposed to break his fast before Shabbos comes in. He's supposed to go all the way with his fast. Vilama lo amar halacha Rabbi Yossi. So why don't you say the halacha is like Rabbi Yossi? Why do you say halacha, the practical consideration of halacha, instead of attributing the halacha to the one who said it, Rabbi Yossi? He says, "If tanai taniu machlif divrei tanaim." It's because there's some tanaim who actually switches around. They say that Rabbi Yossi is the one who is more lenient and allows breaking the fast before Shabbos, and Rav Yudah is the one who says nope, has to fast into Shabbos. That's why he didn't attribute it to a name. He says the halacha is when Tisha B'Av is on an Erev Shabbos, which, by the way, thank God, has not happened in a few thousand years. Our calendar sets that Tisha B'Av is never on Shabbos, so you're not familiar with this halacha that one would have to continue fasting. Main Rav Zer b'shem Rav Huna says, look at this. Let's say an individual, gazar al atzmo. That's an interesting word. He decreed upon himself. How does he decree upon himself a fast day? It means he took a solemn vow to do so. He accepted a fast day upon himself. Why do people accept fast days? Because it's a function of repentance. It helps people repent if they are fasting. So what did he do? So by the way, I'm sorry if I'm not pointing on the screen. I'm using my mouse to look at my own particular source sheet, which has a few more of my own. It's like the teacher's edition. So, I have a note to myself, like make sure to mention this. So I'm sorry if I'm not exactly there, but we're over here in the source. So he says that individual had, for whatever reason, took on a fast. Maybe he had a tanith chalom. What is that? A person with a nightmare. So what does he do to cure the nightmare? He takes on a personal fast the next day or some other day when he can. Even on a Shabbos, he wakes up on Shabbos from a terrible nightmare. So what should he do? He should fast on it, Shabbos. And the sages say that that's a good way to burn away the evil decree. Yeah, fasting on Shabbos for a dream. Tanith Chalom. Yeah, it's in there. It's actually quite discussed. It's a simon in the Shulchan Aruch. It's in the Rambam. It's in the Talmud a few times.
You should fast if you have a nightmare.
If you're the type of person who's introspective and can benefit from such a thing, yes. Yeah, that's a Jewish response to such a thing. A nightmare means that you're aware of an impending crisis, at least in your subconscious, and it's due to the mind being aware of its own sins. Right? A person with a guilty conscience is fearful. And also a person who's not walking with God is fearful. What distances us from God? The sin. Sometimes just a sin of thought, but still. Okay. So it's good to fast. Kada Rav Bibi Hava Yativ Kome Rav Yassi. Rav Yasa. So Rav Bibi was sitting with Rav Yossi, or Rav Yasa. I can't pronounce it right. And so in this case, it's talking about a yachid. Okay, the individual is fasting. He was sitting there. They're giving an example of this. Ba melaf mine hadin uvda, and he wanted to learn this particular matter from him. He wanted to know what's the halacha. I'm fasting on Erev Shabbos for whatever reason. What's the halacha? Amar le nimtei beitha tzivkar. I translate over here. Nechakeh ad shenavo abaytha. Let's first go home. You want to know, break your fast when the fast is over. An Erev Shabbos? First, let's get home. Amar le rum shahu. Is it night yet? I think it's nighttime already. Sun's gone down. Amar le it bit ana. And he said to him, no, I'm fasting. Happy to be fasting. Amar le it gabe turmusin. So look, we have turmusin. I think those are turnips. Can we just eat something? Yes, we asked of Rav Yossi. You asked of Rav Yasa. Yud Sin Aleph. He says, Amarle umashlimin k'Rav Yossi. We're waiting for the fast for Shabbos to actually come in because you're not supposed to eat a little bit before Shabbos. The halacha is like Rabbi Yossi, which is apparently whether we're talking about an individual took upon a fast for himself or even Tisha B'Av, and I guess anything in between, perhaps anything in between. They gave two examples, Tisha B'Av and the fast that one took upon himself. The halacha is he's supposed to complete the fast. No breaking the fast before Shabbos comes in. Make sense?
I thought we wouldn't know how to fast.
No, before Shabbos comes in. You're not allowed to fast. And I mean, fasting on Shabbos means no going the entire Shabbos without eating. Okay? It doesn't mean that I haven't eaten all day and now Shabbos started and I waited an hour before saying Kiddush and having my meal. You fast into Shabbos, maybe that was a problem, but it doesn't mean fasting on Shabbos. Okay? You eat on Shabbos at least once, you're okay. And also during the day. Let's say you ate a Shabbos meal Friday night, but then the day broke, right? And you waited until Havdalah to eat anything. So that's considered fasting a whole Shabbos day. That's a problem unless you had a real good reason to do so. The Bavli has a similar discussion over here. See the Bavli? It says V'chama Chavi Hathchala. It says they started fast days. They started the series of fast days because of the emergency. Right? Monday, Thursday fast days. What do? Rav Acha Amar Shalosh, Rav Asi Amar Ba'achaf. I mean, Rav Asi says it means that they already had a Bahab, a Monday, a Thursday, and a Monday. So now they continue with it. And Rabbi Yassi says just one fast day. Even if they said this, whatever, emergency, start fasting on Thursday and we're going to have Bahabs after this. And it's happened before. Usually you're supposed to start Monday, Thursday, Monday. But let's say you had to start on a Thursday. Thursday was outbreak of a major war, let's say. So they would do that. So I wrote here, you see this notes? I put some parish here. Now, the next discussion is, let's say they've already started, okay, their fast days, and now you have one of a fast day on a day where you're not supposed to. Okay, I'm missing a shin over here. Rosh Chodashim. Oh, okay, missed a shin over there. I'm sorry, I can't put it in now. It says Rosh Chadim instead of this. And also, you're not supposed to fast, by the way, on Fridays. We saw on the Rambam, not Sundays and not Fridays, right?
That's Tish B'Av.
Tisha B'av this year is not Sunday or Friday. I mean, it could be no, it's Sunday. It could be Sunday if I'm not mistaken, but I don't think it's Sunday. Is it?
Oh wait, my bad.
Yeah, it's Tuesday.
Tevin?
No,
Is that a fast?
we're talking about the 10th of Tavas. It's next week and it's going to be on Friday.
Yeah.
You missed the intro. So I'm saying that normally when you have to make a fast day, because of emergency, we certainly don't do it on Sundays or Fridays. Too close to Shabbos. Mondays and Thursdays is the ideal day for fast days. So Rav Yehuda says about this, Amar Rav, Zo divrei Rabbi Meir, She'amar Mishum Rabbi Gamliel, Aval Chachamim Omrim Misaneu Mashnim. Okay? What you have over here, that they're lenient. Rav Yehuda is the one who says break your fast, right, on Friday. Break your fast before Shabbos comes in. No, the Chachamim say complete the fast. You're fasting on Erev Shabbos. The fast goes until Shabbos. Right? Very important. The Raj Mar Zutra Mishmei Rav Huna Halacha Misanu Umashnim. So too says here. This is the short version of the Bavli. The halacha is when the fast day is on Erev Shabbos, you fast and you complete the fast. Okay? Now, until this point, whenever we said mithaneh umashlim, we're saying it's like an obligation. Okay? That's what it seems to be, especially from the Rishalmi. Tell this to one of our more active participants. It seems from Rishalmi that when it says that you got to fast, you can't break your fast on Erev Shabbos, it meant you have to go all the way. Let's just keep that in mind. Because there's some who have a radically different interpretation based on this. When they're going to jump from this Gemara over here in Erevin. What's this Gemara here in Seir in Erevin? I'll spare us because of this. And basically, it shows that they were sitting in a fast. There were those Barbe Rav de Yativ Bitanita, a person his own particular fast. That is, Barbe Rav means one student of the sages who has a fast, his own personal fast. And what should he do if he's fasting on Erev Shabbos, Mali Shabbatah? Ma'ula Ashlume. Does he have to complete the fast, or should he complete the fast? It's a good question. And there were some sages who didn't know. And they came to Rav Yehuda and they asked him, and he also didn't know. Rav said, let's look. He brought a brisa over here. The 9th of Av falls out on Shabbos or on Erev Shabbos, Tisha B'Av then. So what does he do? If it's Shabbos, Tisha B'Av is Shabbos, or Erev Tisha B'Av is Shabbos. I mean, Sunday's going to be the fast day. So on Shabbos itself, he can eat whatever he wants. They say like Solomon used to do. Okay, Suda Shlomo Bishato. Even if the 9th of Av is Shabbos, it's Shabbos. Fast day's pushed off till tomorrow. Valiyot Tisha B'Av Erev Shabbos. Let's say Tisha B'Av is actually on Erev Shabbos. They have this teaching that even the 9th of Av is on Erev Shabbos, so he's supposed to break his fast before Shabbos comes in. That way he doesn't go into Shabbos afflicted. And if a kula, like we said before, if a kula exists for the 9th of Av, then that kula should exist for all the other fast days, because the 9th of Av is treated as the most stringent fast day. No. Afflicted means you're suffering from it. You have a headache because you're dehydrated. You haven't eaten all day. To have an appetite, to have a smart, look, you go to the wedding, right? You know you're going to get some good food, so you held off from eating a little bit. You feel happier about that. You're not starving. Now, you're not thinking like, wow, I had to take off a little bit from work, or I'm actually, if I were asked to now start, I don't know, bench pressing a few hundred pounds, maybe I wouldn't do such a thing because I've been fasting all day, right? There's a difference, me'una and building up an appetite. Okay. So we see over here that, like I said, it's a little bit long. I highlighted certain points over here. The halacha is like Rabbi Yossi. Okay. Rabbi Yossi actually had a discussion. Rabbi Yossi wanted to say that, no, you can't. You can't break your fast before Shabbos begins on Erev, when Tisha B'Av is Erev Shabbos. You have to go into Shabbos. Okay. And they say over here, those are the highlighted points. And we have the halacha mithanu mashlim. And Mar Zutra says over here at the bottom, Darish Mar Zutra b'shmei Rav Huna halacha mitaninu mashlimin. When Tisha B'Av is on Erev Shabbos, we complete the fast. We don't break our fast before Shabbos begins. So let's just now take a step back from this. This Talmudic discussion we had here on Erevin, the last two dafs of this parak of Erevin, which is basically on pages 40, 41, the question was regarding individuals' fast. That says Barbe Rav, an individual is fasting. And it didn't bring a distinction as to why he's fasting. Right? Just as for whatever reason, no personal fast. So we're going to see that individual fasts in later rabbinic literature, there's actually those who argue the type of fast. Why is he fasting? And they want to say one is more stringent than the other. But arguments are made on both sides of there. There's nothing conclusive from the Talmud. For example, Tainis Chalom, where a person just has a neder to take a fast, which one's more severe than which? So there are those who want to argue, well, these should be more treated more stringently, these more leniently, but no one wins the day because there's just arguments. There's nothing conclusive there. Okay, so we're not going to touch any of that right now. And the Gemara's attempt over here at an answer is brought from the Tisha B'Av case. The Gemara assumed that they're asking about an individual's fast on Erev Shabbos, and the Gemara brought proofs from where? From what happens on Tisha B'Av. Well, no, I'm just telling you that happens, showing that the Tisha B'Av case is at least equal to, if not more stringent than the case of the individual's fast. If we could find a kula on Tisha B'Av, so we could apply it for an individual. And if a leniency results on Tisha B'Av, then the Kal V'chomer applies to other rabbinic fast days. If you have any leniency applying to Tisha B'Av, it should apply to all the other fast days. For example, Tisha B'Av is knocked off, which, by the way, the Avi Grossman said something very strange, if I'm not mistaken, about Asara B'Tavas. If Asara B'Tavas could fall out on Shabbos, it wouldn't be pushed off. He claimed such a thing. One, according to our calendar, it never falls out on Shabbos. Secondly, it's clear from the Shulchan Aruch and the Rambam, for example, straight like the Talmud says, these fast days fall out on Shabbos, they get pushed to Sunday. So why would the Avi Grossman say no? Asara B'Tavas has an exception that doesn't exist. It overrides Shabbos like Yom Kippur, if it could fall out on Yom Kippur, if it could fall out on Shabbos. It should be treated at least as stringently as Tisha B'Av. If Tisha B'Av is itself pushed off from Shabbos to Sunday, so too the 10th of Teves. 10th of Teves should be treated more leniently. Okay, so if you have a kula existing by Tisha B'Av, then it should exist on the other fast days. So we have all of our points laid down in front of us. Let's look at the two over here. We're going to ask this usual question, like I introduced before. The Talmud assumes that these public fast days end at sundown. That's what the Talmud says. So, and that Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av are to be treated more stringently. They end at nightfall. So why do we keep hearing this? Why do we keep hearing that every fast ends at nightfall? And that's based on this Beis Yosef that we saw before. It's source number 6, where he explains that the Rosh said that this Shkia that they're talking about is actually Tzedek Kochavim, because of the whole Rabbeinu Tam idea. Rabbeinu Tam resolved apparent contradiction between Talmudic sources by saying that there's a halachic shkia, and then it continues, that's the first shkia, or the beginning shkia, and it persists for almost a whole hour, and then there's the final shkia, or the end of shkia, and then a few minutes later is when the stars come out. That's how it works. You're familiar with this sugya. It's a very basic one. The Mishnah Berurah, I think, is the best place to look if you just want to. The Vilna Gaon's hard to read his intro, so the Mishnah Berurah wrote it better, I think. It's true. The Mishnah Berurah he wrote it in more Cuban language. So it's there, beginning of Shabbos, where he explains all this. I think it's for anybody understanding Zmanim, it's the first class we give to anybody who's actually studying these things. Tells you when to start Shabbos, so it's a good thing to look at. So that's this line over here. And he says, "V'afagav de Gemara muchlach de Gemara shegim matchil ben hashpashot who kodem tzedek kochavim the komakom fein she'olam bikim mahu sof shkia l'chein nagu lamtin ad tzedek kochavim." According to Rabbeinu Tam, the fast is over at the halachic shkia, which according to Rabbeinu Tam is almost an hour after the physical shkia. And because that's a hard thing to discern, the Beis Yosef says, we just wait another 13 or so minutes or 15 minutes until the actual stars come out according to Rabbeinu Tam. Now, if you've been outside, let's say on a day like this, or even on a day in the summer here in Israel, you'll see that if you're watching the physical sunset in Tel Aviv, nothing really changes 58 minutes after that. It's not like there's something that happens in the sky that's now the second sunset, and then 15 minutes later, Rabbeinu Tam says, now all the stars come out. It's like the Vilna Gaon says, the senses deny such a thing. It's not a physical reality. It doesn't make much sense. But either way, Rabbeinu Tam's opinions held sway for a few hundred years. It's starting with the Tosafists and the Rush and the Baal HaTurim, his son, and the Shulchan Aruch. Rabbeinu Tam's understanding of these manim was the one that was held. Whereas I like to show people that they're acknowledging that the Talmudic source says that sundown is when the fast is over, but we hold like Rabbeinu Tam, so we have to use Rabbeinu Tam's sunset, and that's hard to discern, so we just wait until the stars come out. And then all these calendars are writing that the fast is over and the stars come out, but they're using a much more lenient opinion as to when that is. More physical opinion, by the way, if that matches. So they'll tell you the fast is over 18 minutes after sunset, and that's not fitting with any of these classical opinions. Either way. So we see if we use Rabbeinu Tam's novel definitions of sunset and nightfall, which were used for a few centuries, then we can't end the fast at sunset. And nowadays, we unequivocally do not hold of Rabbeinu Tam's definitions. And if we hold like Rabbeinu Tam, we're all Sabbath desecrators. Why? When does everybody start smoking right after Shabbos is over? 35 minutes after sunset, right? According to Rabbeinu Tam, that's totally Shabbos. According to the Shulchan Aruch, it's totally Shabbos, right? Isn't that the first thing you do right after Shabbos comes to an end? Just got to, oh, sorry, we're not smokers. That's what I see around here. When I lived in Jerusalem, I was like, it's like, oh, the smell is back. Okay, so let's see here. The Vilna Gaon also points out, before we read source 7, that the Tosfos also made an argument for every fast ending at nightfall. Someone was trying to argue with me that every single fast should end at nightfall, even the more lenient ones, and even should end at sunset. And we already saw that the Vilna Gaon ultimately rejects that. He allows that idea to float, but contradicts many things he wrote, and at the end he changes the text of the Gemara so that there's no room to even say such a thing. That was from last year. Yeah, in Avodah Zarah. Tosfos until the stars come out. Even though the Talmud says right there, which the sun has not set is not a fast day, implying that's when the fast day ends. So why are you waiting even more till the stars come out? Nightfall. Tosfos answers, Mashma divshkiyadachama sagay. See, it's good to fast until sundown. Why are you fasting longer? It's actually, according to Rabbi Tam, the time it takes to walk 5 miles, some have 4 miles, whatever it is, basically 4 kilometers or 5 kilometers, comes out to about 72 minutes before the stars come out. See, it's a big nafkamina when the fast is over. Lo machtina nafshin l'sfeika. We don't want to get involved in the sfeikas. Yes, we are told that the halacha is more lenient, but it involves sfeikas. There's been a shmasho, so we just are mach here. Make sense? By the way, such an idea, lo machtina l'sfeikas, is halachic methodology or practice completely rejected by, let's say, Maimonides and the Vilna Gaon. They tell you halacha is halacha. You shouldn't worry about enjoying what appears to be a leniency. The other fast days are more lenient than Tisha B'Av. So you shouldn't say, I don't like using a kula. What's wrong with the kula? If the sages say it, the sages said it. And he also says, the Shema L'shon Shaka'a Rotze Lomar Shaka Lagamri. Maybe when it says the sunset, it means completely sunset, which once again gets us into Rabbeinu Tam territory, where it's not just that the sun sets, there's a second later sunset, or when the sun completely set. So longtime students will know that these two arguments were already dismissed when the Talmud acknowledged this doubt, and the Talmud already ruled that it's only on the 9th of Av that we continue to fast during this doubtful period, the Ben Hashmashos, the Sfeika, and this concept of a secondary sunset or final sunset or end of sunset, whichever term you use, is not held of by many halachic authorities. It wasn't held of by the Gaonim, basically, and nowadays we don't hold of it. Let's continue in Tosfos. Tosfos continues, concerning one who's fasting on Erev Shabbos, even though we said in Erevin, halacha mithaneh umashlim, the halacha is, you're fasting on Erev Shabbos, you have to fast all the way. You fast on Erev Shabbos and you complete the fast. You can't end the fast before Shabbos starts. If we're talking about Shabbos already, you don't have to be so machmir to wait until the stars come out. Why? Tosfos just showed us the practice was Asara b'Teves, they fast until the stars come out. Shivasar b'Tammuz, they fast until the stars come out. If it's Erev Shabbos, no, we don't. Whatever. We don't have to be medactic so much. We basically do follow what should be the halacha. The fast is over at sunset. Even Tosfos acknowledges this. Okay. So this is our first precedent saying that the mashlim aspect of Shabbos, when it says that you have to end your fast day, you end it when Shabbos comes in. It means at sunset. That's when the Shabbos comes in. That's the first idea that we have here. Okay, let's see this in. So this could be the key to our discussion. When the fast is Erev Shabbos, suddenly the objective time at when the stars come out, it's suddenly subjective. Because Shabbos, you don't have to even so medactic. It's Shabbos. By the way, should be something to the calendar makers, because the calendar makers, you can take out any of these printed calendars that tell you. There, you look, when does Shabbos start? Well, candle lighting is at 4 o'clock or so. Sunset's at 4:40, and I can tell you the fast is over at 5. Even though Tosfos, who's been very machmir with this, says we keep all our fast days until the stars come out, even Asara b'teves. For Shabbos, we don't have to be so medactic.
I mean, wouldn't
But
it come out like that anyway? I mean, if you go to shul, you daven, and you know, by the time you get home,
well, maybe you could make early Shabbos. Early Shabbos isn't just for the summer. That's what we do now because we have daylight savings time and all that. But technically speaking, if I could take in Shabbos while the sun is shining and I get home and I make Kiddush while the sun is shining, just like the sages said, I daven Ma'ariv and I say Kiddush and I eat my meal while the sun is still shining, and that's perfectly valid. I could do that during December also. But we haven't seen that yet. Maybe it said, remember, we had this whole idea of mashlim. You have to complete the fast, right? They were talking about Tisha B'Av. So some sages would have, even on Tisha B'Av, what would they have done? I don't know, sometime before Shabbos begins, before going to shul, that's when they eat a little bit of breakfast. What would be enough, if we held like all those, by the way, Tanaic sages, including Rabbi Akiva, if I'm not mistaken, there's a whole list of them, a whole list of Tanaic sages who, when the 9th day of Av was an Erev Shabbos, they were breaking their fast before accepting the Shabbos. Never seen such a thing. It's that was rejected. We said it's not the halacha, right? Perhaps that is valid. So let's introduce the discussion here. That's why I color coded it blue and red. Two competing interpretations of the sugya and Erevin. That completing the fast is optional. That's what it said. Mashlimin means it's an option. You may do that, or it's obligatory. Until this point, we've understood, especially because of Yerushalmi, that when Rabbi Yossi said fast day and Erev Shabbos, mashlimin, you have to complete the fast. I said you have to. It's obligatory, like in the red. We're going to see now that when Rabbi Yossi said mashlimin means, really they were right. The sages were correct. You could break your fast before Shabbos comes in. But if you want to be machmir, the chiddush is, if you want to be machmir and keep your fast until Shabbos starts, you aren't, let's say, disrespecting the Shabbos. When those other sages were breaking their fast before Shabbos really came in, they're being extra respectful of Shabbos. They didn't want to get into this problem. But those who want to be machmir can continue fasting into Shabbos. That's the blue team. The red team says, pshuto kamashmo. Rabbi Yossi is telling you, you can't break your fast before Shabbos begins. You got to go into Shabbos with your fast. Okay, two general ideas. But we're going to see something else, that either way, they end up shaking hands with each other. This idea, completing the fast is optional, or complete the fast is obligatory. What was the meaning of the Gemara there? So it says, yes, they're completed. The assumption is that, strictly speaking, we do not do like Rabbi Akiva and the other sages. They broke their fast Friday afternoon. And those who wish to be stringent they continue fasting. And sometimes we say the halacha demands it. So let's see what we have here. This is the tour to Orach Chaim, Reish Mem Tet, source 8. He says here, Inyan Bayan Asikna, concerning our case, we concluded in Erevin, Vilchata Mitaneh Umashlim. The halacha is fasting on Erev Shabbos. He fasts and he completes his fast. However, Perush Im Yirtzeh, if he wants to be machmir and not break his fast before Shabbos like the greatest sages did. He wants to be machmir himself, so let him starve. Okay, let him go to shul still fasting and wait until he comes home and makes kiddush. It's his choice. Okay, what? It's an option. That's what we've just been told explicitly by the tour. Okay, the parish of the sugya is misanu mashlim. This is a surprise, like I said. I don't think you could fit this into Yerushalmi. And there are certainly sages who Rishonim who didn't agree with the way the tour says in the name of his father. Usually, what the tour says comes from his father, the Rush, right? The tour quotes my esteemed father, the Rush. V'lo avi kimith aneh b'Shabbat. A person who continues his fast a little into Shabbos, until he comes home from shul, for example, is not considered a sinner in that he's fasting on Shabbos. He'll break his fast soon. It's a long night. The kevan she'achol lashlim im yirtzeh, because he can complete this fast if he wants. Im yirtzeh, use that term twice. V'hu kibel lav tanit stam, and he also took upon this fast himself, right? He came out stam. Thursday afternoon at Minchi says, I intend to God. I'm taking upon myself to fast Friday. He just said stam. I'm going to fast Friday. Yom Shishi. V'chol tanit shelo shakalav chachma eno tanit tzarich lashlim atzir kochavim. Remember, he's already assuming that when it says a fast goes until sunset, it means until the stars come out. So if he just took upon himself stamazoy, a fast, so he has to take the fast until the stars come out Friday night. So everybody else is eating and all that. He's waiting until time of the clock, the stars come out. Unless when he first took upon the fast, he said, I'm going to break my fast when the tzibur is done davening. Okay? When the tzibur finishes Mariv, because by the way, until for most of Jewish history, how does one accept Shabbos, or how does the tzibur accept Shabbos? What's the official acceptance of Shabbos? Mariv. Okay, we're going to see that's the Shulchan Aruch's assumption also. Even though Shulchan Aruch was aware already of Rishonim Gaonim had other opinions, even in Shulchan Aruch times, how do you accept Shabbos early? Mariv, early. That's what it is. So the Torah basically has outlined this understanding. What is it? Fasting on Erev Shabbos means if he wants to. And what does if he wants to mean? Means that when he first took on the fast day, he did it on condition that he will break it. He will break his fast when everybody else is just taking in Shabbos. But minastam, he has to mashlim all the way. Okay, the umashlim, the optional part is that he has a way out of completing the fast from the outset. Before the fast starts, he has a way out of it. He gives what the Maharam Rotenberg says. Varam katav. This is the red team. He can eat right after the prayer, even before sunset. Why? Because they davened early. They made early Shabbos. He can eat right after the prayers are over. That is, once Shabbos has begun for everybody, even before the sun sets. He says, when the Gemara says, mashlim, complete the fast, yes, it didn't mean like Rabbi Akiva that one should break his fast before going off the shul. Well, it's still certainly Friday. By mashlim, it meant fast until you've taken in Shabbos with the community. That's still considered mashlim. Okay? Very, very important line. And we continue the black team. Let's say, no, now it's not just a neder fast day. It's a tainus chalom on Erev Shabbos. He has to fast until the stars come out Friday night. Why? Because for a tainus chalom, he could take it upon himself on Shabbos. A regular fast day, you can't take upon yourself on Shabbos. Only a tainus chalom can happen on Shabbos. Because the tainus chalom is treated more stringently than other elective fast days, and it would even happen on Shabbos. Therefore, the tainus chalom that's on Friday has to go until the stars come out Friday night. This is highly disputable, this last line. Right? First, the assumption that a tainus chalom should be treated more stringently than other fast days, and because of that, it should go until the stars come out even on Shabbos. But either way, now we open up a Pandora's box here. We saw a different interpretation of the Gemara. We said, mashlim, is it obligatory or is it an option? And how does that play out? Once you say it's obligatory, an option means, wait a minute, there we saw those say obligatory, but the mashlim itself is subjective. A person has to fast all the way into Shabbos, but Shabbos itself depends on when. Either it'll come in at the sun setting, or it'll come in an hour before that because everybody's davening Mariv. You could have, by the way, when the days are really long, especially as you go farther north, they take in Shabbos maybe 3 hours before sunset. Like in Berlin in July, they take in Shabbos hours before sunset. They're not waiting until 10 o'clock just to let Shabbos naturally start. They want to eat already. So they take in Shabbos right after Plag. and their plot could be like 3 hours before sunset, right? So you understand that there's a subjective nature that even if you say that you have to fast in Mashlim. And if you hold like this amazing opinion that the Torah just introduced us, that Lashlim is itself an option, it means you could say, you know what, I'm going to fast on Friday, but only until the Tzibur, what? Yeah, David's Marv. So either way, it comes to the same conclusion, which is the person's breaking his fast before sunset, whenever the Shabbos comes in. They lead the same. Okay? So that's what the Beis Yosef is going to analyze here. He quotes a little bit of the Torah and he elaborates on this. So let's see the Beis Yosef here. This, like I said, I think this amazing sugya. Okay, this is all from the Torah. When it said in the Gemara, complete the fast. The Friday fast is complete, means if he wants to. And what does it mean if he wants to? It doesn't mean he chooses day up. It means that he made a stipulation that he's going to, if, and by the way, also I said your yirtza, it's saying if he wants to, he can fast, he can mashlim. But then it says minastam means he has to go all the way. And the wanting is that he could somehow opt out. Im yirtza means he has an opt out beforehand. Klomar, aval eno chayav lashlim. Okay? Im yirtza means he's not obligated to complete his fast. He's a way out of it. Perishua Toafot v'Mordechai b'soch perak b'chol ma'aravin v'Arosh b'soch perak beis in Tainus. All these sources, the blue team sources, if you're looking on the source sheet over here, the Gam Kain Kathav Hagoth Maimoniot, which is a commentary on Maimonides, in the first parak of Hilchos Tainus, all said this idea that mashlim is an option on Erev Shabbos, such that a person could somehow opt out. When he took on the fast, he said, once the tzibur is done davening, when the tzibur takes the Shabbos, that's when my fast is over. It was pretty good. Veloka Rav Yava Rokeach, Rav Yava and the Rokeach are on the red team. Hold on, we got a question coming in.
But how
Okay, be good. Okay, what?
How can he say such?
Who's he? We have a lot of he's here.
The person that's saying the fast is over.
Yeah.
With Sipora, Davin's tomorrow.
Yeah. Taking Shabbos.
Yeah. Taking Shabbat. How can they say that when you're really not breaking the fast until you eat, until you do Kiddush? Why is it not until you do Kiddush? Why does it not say that until you get home and make Kiddush and Hamatz?
Well, a lot of times, don't forget they assume that they said Kiddush in the synagogue. Remember? Like in Chutz La'aretz.
Yeah, but so the mitzvah is to hear Kiddush, and you got one guy who drinks there. They give it to the kid to drink.
No, that in the old days. In the olden days, it was a serious thing. Kiddush in the synagogue was because there were people eating there. Okay.
Oh, so they had the mill.
Yeah, it was this real serious deal. And I'm assuming that when they say this, means let's say they get together for Maariv, and they give people time to walk home. This we're going to discuss at the end. That the Shulchan Aruch times, what did they say? Wait, until modern times. Now is Hanukkah, right? Tichle regel min hashuk means sunset, half an hour. People are not on the streets half an hour later, right? So people want to get home before it got dark.
Yeah.
So, and by the way, this is the first Tosfos in all of Shas. There's a lot of minhagim that are assumed that people daven Mariv all the time, quote unquote, early. Imagine, would the Beis Yosef want to daven in a synagogue where they're waiting for 18, 20, or 15 minutes after sunset just to start Mariv, just to say Baruch Hu Leil Shabbos? It means they'd only be leaving the synagogue 20 minutes after that, which is, 40 minutes after sun went down. Now they're walking home 40 minutes after the sun went down? That's dangerous. Tichle Regel Meshuk means 10 minutes ago, everybody got home already. It means in Shulchan Aruch times, or until before they had, electricity, before the modern era, which is most of Chazal and the Rishonim and Achronim, of course, every Shabbos and every day, Mariv was early so that you could get home before it gets dark. Okay? So this was practically. And Shabbos people especially wanted to, most Shabbos of the year, people, I don't know, nowadays people are different, but I wish I could do early Shabbos every single Shabbos of the year. Like Shabbos. It's a good thing to do. And I don't like getting home when it's dark on Erev Shabbos and making Kiddush then. Especially if it's not fitting around the season. When do I sit down with the kids to eat? Now, now it's a little, it gets dark at 5. So we're not sitting down to eat at 5. But, want to eat it more on Friday, Friday evening, at least that lines up with, when the kids are ready to eat. Making the kids wait an hour later for their meal on one day of the week, kind of weird. Makes them all cranky and everything, throws off their schedule. So don't do that. It also makes me cranky. It throws off my schedule. I'm a big kid, right? Yeah. Okay. So the
Do you think
what?
it'd be more practical um, for the groups that are davening Mara? They're waiting until later.
Okay.
I think it'd be more like in diaspora.
Yeah. The Vilna Gaon himself didn't like to do early Shabbos. He would wait to daven Mariv so he could, daven Mariv with Kriyash Shema Bisman. But he was exceptional in his time.
So do you
But
think it'd be, especially right now, given the situation, be more practical for them to implement doing Marav early than doing Kriyash Shema at the house?
everybody there, if a bunch of people want to daven Mariv whenever they want to Friday evening, that's their own business. I'm just saying you shouldn't stop other people from davening early. You know, the way the Rambam has it, and the rabbi mentioned this a lot based on the Rambam's Truva. The public synagogues should be lowest common denominator. They should be as accommodating for the people who have it worst off. Like the Shulchan Aruch himself writes concerning when we read the Megillah on Tanis Esther. Because people are fasting and people are weak, we read the Megillah as early as possible, even before the sun goes down. The whole community reads Megillah, Erev Purim, before the sunset to make it easier for everybody else, right? And nowadays they say the exact opposite. Since 100 years after the Shulchan Aruch passed away, you have a chomer. No, you can only start reading the Megillah after Tzeisach Kochavim. Okay, so it's a tircha on everybody else, and everybody's continuing fasting after that. When the sources say the exact opposite, what are you supposed to do? If people want to be machmir on themselves, or a group of people want to, that's fine. Just don't make everybody else do that. That's the main point I'm trying to get at.
There's one man. He's elderly, and he has to actually walk through a dangerous part of town. And
everybody can accommodate him. That's the way it used to be. We get together for Marv earlier so that no one is put into a danger. Okay, lowest common denominator helps the community. He gives others who say, "Mashlim ella sheino ochel kodem shkias chamo vavadai mishetishkacham mitosefes Shabbosu." Even those who say you have to keep the fast on Erev Shabbos until the end, certainly once the sun goes down, it's Shabbos. Now it's Tosefes Shabbos time. Wait, hold on a second. Remember, the Shulchan Aruch defined Tosefes Shabbos differently the way we say it. Shulchan Aruch felt when the sunset happens, that's not halachic sunset. That starts the time when you should accept Shabbos early, because it's the so-called second sunset when the Shabbos actually comes in. So the Shulchan Aruch is saying here that even according to those who held of they have to keep the fast on Friday until Shabbos begins, even if you've gotten into the time where now you could add to Shabbos, optional time to take in Shabbos, that's considered that you completed the fast. You had to complete the fast, but whenever you take in Shabbos, that's when it's Shabbos. You completed the fast.
Even though you didn't eat anything.
Well, now you can eat something. You're allowed to eat now. You've so-called completed the fast. You fasted until you made it to the finish line fasting.
Yeah, but coulda, shoulda, woulda, didn't. He didn't eat anything. Well,
why? Well, you're going now. Now you can. That's what I'm trying to say. You've crossed the finish line. Now you can.
Well, my question is like, why is it not counted from the moment that you eat? Why is there a certain point? Why is it not from the moment that you?
You have to get past. You have to pass the line so that the eating can become permissible. Okay. If he wants to eat now, he can eat. Because now he's gotten into Tosefes Shabbos. This is the Beis Yosef here, by the way. This is the Shulchan Aruch. The Shulchan Aruch is shorthand what the Beis Yosef wrote. This is the most held of Jewish Talmudist and decisor in the last 1,000 years we're talking about here. He said that, basically, he said, Shuv eino rashai litanot ad kal lashono. Yeah, you had to fast Erev Shabbos, and you had to complete that fast. But once you've gotten into the zone where now it's Tosefes Shabbos and the community's accepted Shabbos, the fast is over. You crossed that line. They brought the finish line to you. So that's you see the implication over here after this first paragraph. If it's acceptance of Shabbos, and it's the valid time for accepting Shabbos, then completion has already been accomplished of the fast. And that's what he says next. And this is the second paragraph over here. Umasha Kotzav Rabbeinu b'Shem Rav Meir. Okay, that's Tur. That's the second line of the Tur over here. In the name of the Mordechai, in that parak in Erevin, Bakoma Arvin, page 40 and 41. Vizel Lishono, he's going to quote the Ram. Dashlamat Tanit, Erev Shabbat, Sagi Ad Lachar Tfilat Arvit, Shemi Plaga Mincha Ve'elach. Okay? The exact quote. No, it's not the exact quote, but the whole teaching is, even though we said, according to the Gemara, like Rabbi Yossi, the fast has to be completed on Erev Shabbos. No breaking the fast before Shabbos. It is sufficient to complete the fast by what? Taking in Shabbos early, okay, with Mariv from Plaga Mincha and on. Tosefes Shabbos doesn't just begin with like the Shulchan Aruch said, the first Shkia, when one has to do Tosefes Shabbos. He can, if it's summertime, he can take in Shabbos from Plag. From Plaga Mincha, if you daven Mariv from Plaga Mincha on the fast day, on Erev Shabbos, you take in Shabbos early, so the fast is over, according to the Machmir opinion. These are the Machmir ones who said you have to fast. Kal v'chomer, those who said, no, Mashlim is an option. According to the ones who say Mashlim is an option, it's an option. You already made a stipulation before the fast. I'm only gonna fast until when? Until they take in Shabbos. So you understand they're shaking hands here. Basically, it comes out, whichever way you say, is Mashlim obligatory or is Mashlim an option? The bottom line is, when is the fast day over? When Shabbos is taken in any time after Plaga Mincha. And there are others write this also. Shafilu divrei omrim shetzarch lashtim hainu m'shemitaneh adachar kabbalat Shabbat utfilat Shabbat himi Plaga Mincha ulamalo. When it says you have to fast and continue to fast, if they take in Shabbos with tefillah Shabbos, right? That's the Shulchan Aruch's refrain. We're going to see a few proofs for this position from Plaga Mincha on. So that's considered. Afilu oda yom gadol mikrei shapir ashlama. Even if the sun is still shining, you've completed your fast. And by the way, I say this with regards to which fast day? The 9th of Av. Kal v'chomer with, let's say, Asara b'Teves on Friday. Okay? The Shulchan Aruch, the opinion the Shulchan Aruch is going to run with is this, the blue opinion, by the way, the more lenient opinion. Okay? And he says, Aval ein kain divrei Rosh b'sof parak beis. The rush was that we saw. He said fasting, completing the fast is just an option, as he said in the end of in the second paragraph of Tainus, as we explained earlier, and also the Mordechai wrote this. He says, here's the example. Hamachat, according to the Mordechai, Ira Yud B'Tevet Yom Shishi. Asar B'Teves was on a Friday. Okay. So by the way, let's talk about an individual's fast. We're talking about a public fasting. Okay. Uchsharatza the Ri. I think it's I always get confused which one it is. Okay, so it's one of the Tosafos. Okay, Asar b'Teves was Erev Shabbos, and Ri leilech leveit knesset. Came time for him to go to shul. What did he do? Ta'am hatafshil kadei shelo yikanes l'Shabbos keshehu me'uneh. He held like the opinion that says you don't have to fast. You can break your fast, like Rabbi Akiva. He ate some of the cholent before going to shul. Erev Shabbos, which was Asar b'Teves. Why? Because he holds like the rush that the fasting until the end, completing the fast on the Tainus, on Erev Shabbos, is an option. But you could do like Rabbi Akiva and the rest of the sages who broke their fast before Shabbos came in. The Tema, I'm a little bit surprised there. Doesn't the Gemara conclude that mitaneo mashlim, you have to fast Friday and complete the fast, going to Shabbos with the fast? So how do you break his fast before Shabbos came in? We understand the Gemara like the Rush did. The question was, may one continue fasting into Shabbos? The assumption was one should break his fast before Shabbos comes in. May one be more machmir himself and wait until it's already Shabbos to break the fast. Leave shul and then say Kiddush. Okay? Umasik dibintaneo mashlim. And when the Gemara concludes that line, Rav Huda's line, you fast and you complete the fast, kilomar, yacholhu lahashlim imir tzeh. He may be machmir. He could choose, because that was his decision before the fast even started. And by the way, we're talking about Asar b'Teves now. That's not a person's choice. So it's not individuals who can do this for their own Asar b'Teves. It's does the community accept such a thing? Is that the understanding the community went into with the fast? Umihu tov shelo lahashlim shelo yikanes l'Shabbos keshu meuneh. However, it's better that he break his fast before Shabbos begins, so he doesn't go into Shabbos still fasting. And this is an important line in the Beis Yosef. He concludes, "V'im bo'at tzibur b'beit hakneset mi be'od yom mi be'erev Shabbos." Mi be'od yom. If the tzibur comes home from shul while the sun is still shining, miba'od yom, mutar le'echol miyad. This is the last line of the Beis Yosef. It is permissible to eat right away. Why? Sun is shining tomorrow, next week on Asara b'Teves. You get home from shul, you still see the sun. It's before Shkia. It's candlelighting time. Mutar le'echol miyad. Can eat right away. Unlike the calendars. So basically, like I said, when is the Asara b'Teves over? I'd say it's a machlokes, all the Rishonim and the calendar makers, because all the Rishonim somehow came to this conclusion. No matter which way you understand the Gemara, you can eat before Tzeis. We saw 5 different arguments so far for that point. Okay, the Kevan Dechvar Palalu, because they have already prayed. Shulchan Aruch equates praying Marv with accepting Shabbos. Im Kain Kvar Kibelu Shabbat Alehem. They've already accepted Shabbos. Asar B'Teves or Tisha B'Av are over. Okay, you could technically end Tisha B'Av early. If Tisha B'Av was on Erev Shabbos, which has not happened, like I said, in a few thousands of years since we set the calendar, if Tisha B'Av itself was on Erev Shabbos, yes, it doesn't matter which way you go. It's questionable. There are some Chachamim who even broke their fast on Friday. Apparently, the Gemara rejects that. But even according to whichever way you say mashlim as the bottom line of an halacha, mashlim is an option or mashlim is obligatory. Turns out that if people took in Shabbos, now the fast is over, and the sun is still shining. Okay, so this is a very important point. And like I said, I don't see room for what the Rosh is saying. The more lenient approach that it's an option, mashlim is an option because it doesn't fit with Yerushalmi. Okay, so that's why I'd also like to say that what is the Beis Yosef doing here? This is for sharp people to look at. The Beis Yosef is basically justifying the ending of the fast day on Erev Shabbos with the acceptance of Shabbos. And he gives 2 different ways, 2 different halachic mechanisms for doing so. There's 2 rival ways to understand the Gemara sources, but the bottom line is the fast ends when Shabbos begins, and Shabbos begins is subjective. That's when they daven Ma'ariv. So what's the Beis Yosef doing here? He's basically saying that the practice is unanimous. Am Yisrael has always, remember, the Asara b'Teves on Erev Shabbos, as we saw, happens about 1 out of every 5 years, right? This is something that happens a few times in our life. You don't remember? Do you remember the last time it happened? It was a few years ago, and before that, a few years ago. It's once every 5 years or so, on average. So the Beis Yosef here is showing you the justification for the practice that Am Yisrael had, and we also have to acknowledge that if they don't actually accept Shabbos, if there wasn't this, okay, let's take it Shabbos early, then of course the fast will end whenever it is supposed to end, when Shabbos naturally comes in with sundown. And you could even make an argument that if it's Tisha B'Av or Yom Kippur on Erev Shabbos, which used to be possible, so if no one's actively taking in Shabbos, no one's davening Ma'ariv early, then those would end at Seis when they're supposed to, especially Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur overrides Shabbos, right? When Yom Kippur is Shabbos, we don't eat the entire Shabbos. So if Yom Kippur is Erev Shabbos, we would keep Yom Kippur until when it naturally ends at Seis, and then we'd have Shabbos, so we'd say Kiddush. Now is the additional holiness of Shabbos said because it's maybe Kedusha Shabbos overrides, I don't know. Either way, this is very important. The Beis Yosef is showing you what the Beis Yosef, what he's familiar with, which was that when they had fast days on Erev Shabbos, it ended when? Say it with me. When does the fast day on Erev Shabbos officially end? Well, when the community davens Ma'ariv. And that's what he said explicitly. He gave the case of Asara b'Teves on Erev Shabbos. Why? Because the Gemara talks about an individual taking on a fast or Tisha B'Av. Those are the cases the Gemara talks about. So we extrapolate to the only fast that we know on Erev Shabbos, which is Asara b'Teves. The fourth halacha, the fourth source is Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim Reish Samech Aleph, which is I guess we're going to skip all these sources, but if you want, you could see that. Aside from the fact that Shulchan Aruch had the Beis Yosef himself wrote this a few times already, that we read explicitly, that what is accepting of Shabbos? What's the official act of accepting Shabbos?
Davening Ma'ariv.
Davening Ma'ariv. What about lighting candles? Who said that? That's the Bahag. That's not the opinion that Shulchan Aruch holds of, right? You say maybe if a woman doesn't know any better and she lights candles, we assume that if a guy's been to yeshiva and he's learned Mishnah Berurah a few times, he knows that the Shulchan Aruch mentions such an opinion, but does not hold of such an opinion, right? What? I say we just read it. Okay. Okay. Well, whatever, you can see it. You just have to read you read. You know what you should do? Everybody should take some time and read a few simanim. Shabbos comes every week, right? So you could break apart Hilchos Shabbos, like learn a few simanim in Shulchan Aruch with just the Beis Yosef and the tour. So you know what the Shulchan Aruch is talking about. Do 3 simanim a week. You'll finish Hilchos Shabbos over the course of the year, and you'll be a bucky in Hilchos Shabbos, and you'll know that the Shulchan Aruch held 2 things. More that which we'll skip here, but we'll just say the 2 statements because you could see this. The proof is right in front of our faces. The Shulchan Aruch says that Shabbos must be accepted before it starts on its own. The Shulchan Aruch says there's a certain point on the clock, which, by the way, that's subject to dispute. Are you holding a Rabbeinu Tam or like the Gaonim? By the way, there's a halachic sunset, and Shabbos will start at the halachic sunset, no matter what. You can't avoid Shabbos. There's also a time where you could choose to accept Shabbos even before that. That's called Tosefes Shabbos. And the Shulchan Aruch says you have to accept Shabbos before it starts on its own. This is against Rambam and the Vilna Gaon who say it's an option. Tosefes Shabbos is an option for Shabbos and Yontif. For Yom Kippur, it's obligatory. Shulchan Aruch says no. Lichatchila, every Shabbos and therefore every Yontif also has to have some Tosefes Shabbos time.
That's before the Shkia on the calendar.
That's so. If your cutoff point is the Shkia, then according to the Shulchan Aruch, you have to accept Shabbos sometime before that. 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 40 minutes. Well, the Shulchan Aruch halachically defines Shkia differently. He holds like Rabbeinu Tam that the halachic Shkia is the second Shkia. That's when Shabbos officially starts. So he tells you, Shulchan Aruch says one of 2 things. Look at the second Shkia. That means Shabbos came in automatically. At the first Shkia, that's when you should be taking in Shabbos. And Plag is when you can take in Shabbos. But you should be doing Tosefes Shabbos. So the Shulchan Aruch says Shabbos must be accepted before it starts on its own. You must do such a thing. And according to the Shulchan Aruch, accepting the Shabbos before it starts on its own is through davening Mariv. Well, I don't know either way.
If I get in Shkia and I do Tosefes Shabbos, which I have to do.
Yeah, okay, so but it's been for the last few hundred years, we've gone back to defining Shkia as they used to. Shkia means physical sunset. The practical application, therefore, means you have to accept Shabbos, according to Shulchan Aruch, before sunset.
Even though we hold it.
Yeah. Okay. Just we're fixing things. Okay. The halacha always was that you have to accept Shabbos before sunset. The only question is how you define that. We're just defining sunset differently. But the sources always assumed, many of them, not Rambam, that you have to do like this. You have to accept Shabbos early. There's a Tosefes Shabbos is obligatory, and the way of accepting Shabbos is Mariv, and Mariv has to be after Plag. There's no such thing as Mariv before Plag. So the ideal way, combining these 2, according to Shulchan Aruch, therefore, according to Shulchan Aruch, one must lichatchila accept Shabbos and every festival sometime between Plag Mincha and sunset by offering the evening prayer. That's the Shulchan Aruch's assumption from all these sources that we see, including, by the way, Shavuos and Sukkot and Pesach. Yeah. Yes. Well, there are many people who do that, and that's the way it used to be done. That's the Shulchan Aruch's actual opinion. It's good to know that what the Shulchan Aruch says. Rambam says all this is permissible. And the Vilna Gaon also accepted this as a halacha, but he himself was machmir to daven Mariv Bisman. No, he said it's a mitzvah ika. He says it's a mitzvah to take in Shabbos early. So what we do is he would sit down, and learn. It would be shovet, right? Which is ikr. So the Vilna can imagine the Vilna Gaon. I would think that if Shabbos sunset was at 6 p.m. already, by 4 p.m. he was sitting and studying, and studying because he did all his Shabbos preparations before that, and around then he would tell his wife light the Shabbos candles, right? Do exactly like the Mishnah says, hadliku aner, hisartem eravtem, hadliku aner, and he'd learn a little bit more until time for davening Mariv with Kriya Shema. Okay, so this is very important. Okay? This statement over here that every Shabbos and every festival of the year, the chumras that we have that you can't take in Sukkot early or Pesach early or Shavuos early weren't held of by the Shulchan Aruch. They hadn't been invented yet. And the idea that you have to start your Seder after Seis, the Shulchan Aruch mentions that's the Seder, that's not the Marav of Pesach. And even then, that's just a Chumrah. Yeah. What do you mean? Everybody says that. You can't have a Marav on Shavuos before it says. What do you mean? It says that in the calendars. There are people who take that as like Chukli Avor. It's like a sacred halacha. You've never davened in a shul? They always tell you, daven Marav late on Shavuos.
Oh, so you can stay up all night and night from Bishar. That's why. That's what people want to.
No. It's a shtick. Since the times, well, Mr. Burr brings it. It's not in the Shulchan Aruch or the Ramah or anything like that. It says very clearly, we don't daven Marav before it says because of the counting the Omer thing. Tmimos. Okay, so that's a chumrah that postdates the Shulchan Aruch. It's also not halacha. Okay, so there we go. That's a very important statement that the Shulchan Aruch assumes, including, by the way, when Friday is a fast day. The Shulchan Aruch says that you have to accept Shabbos early, lichatchila, by davening Marav sometime after Plaga before Shkia. That's lichatchila. So the Shulchan Aruch is assuming coming Asara B'Teves that what do you do lichatchila if you're a Shulchan Aruch Jew? You'll take in Shabbos early on Asara B'Teves by davening Marav sometime after Plaga before Shkia. And like the Shulchan Aruch always said in the Beis Yosef, it doesn't matter which way you interpret the whole sugya of mashlim, not mashlim. Is mashlim obligatory? Is mashlim an option? If everybody has davened Marav already, the fast is over. That is mashlim. Or it was just an option, in which case it was just an option. Okay? So which one does Shulchan Aruch follow? Shulchan Aruch follows option interpretation A, the blue interpretation. The whole mashlim idea, like the Rosh, mashlim itself was just an option. Okay? Completing the fast is optional. So let's see it inside, color coded in blue. This is Simon Reish Memtet in Bar-Hayim. Shulchan Aruch says, hold on one second. What does that mean? By mashlim means it was a stipulation beforehand. I'm going to be breaking my fast after we daven Marav early. He said this when he took in the fast, or that's what the community has in mind when Asara B'Teves starts. The fast will be over when we daven Marav. It says, Im kibel alav litanot b'erev Shabbat, tzarich litanot ad tzedek kochavim. Stam, a person accepts a fast, he's going to be fasting on Friday, so he should be fasting until Tzeis. That is on Shabbos, Tzeis, when the stars come out Friday night. Im lo shepiresh b'shak kabbalat tanit ad sheyashlimu at tzibur tefilatan. Unless his stipulation was, when he accepted the fast, I'm going to break my fast when the tzibur is done davening. Like we saw in the Shulchan Aruch, tzibur meant they're getting home while the sun is still shining. They're coming up from shul while the sun is still shining. The Ramah says the other opinion. Misane mashlim is obligatory, but even then, obligatory is mashlim means whenever they finished Friday by accepting Shabbos. Okay, they left shul right away. They should be eating. Why? Because you were supposed to be mashlim, but the fact is that they took in Shabbos. So now Shabbos killed the fast day. So that's shapir mikrei hashlama. That is hashlama. And he gives the usual sources. This is all shorthand for what we saw before. Therefore, the Tainis Yachid lo yashlim means don't wait until it says. Eat already. Everybody daven Marav. Here's the yellow opinion. He brings from the real. Wait a minute. Tainis Tzibur, they should still go. They daven Marav. They got home. They should still be fasting. Who said that? We didn't see that opinion yet. That's the Maharil. The Maharil had an opinion mentioned by the Ramah here. Tanis Tzibur on a Friday, even though the Shulchan Aruch said, you all daven Marav, you took in Shabbos early, like a good Shulchan Aruch Jew. The Maharil says, or at least the source for the Ramah is saying over here, Shulchan Aruch doesn't say. Remember, Ramah is not Shulchan Aruch, like Dr. Shapiro pointed out to us. It's a Bikoshi. We don't know if the Beis Yosef knew who the Ramah was. He did not see the Darkei Moshe. He did not see the Hagos on the Shulchan Aruch. He was unaware of these things. He was aware of older Rishonim of Ashkenaz. He was unaware that someone's writing a gloss on the Shulchan Aruch, giving other opinions. So he didn't read this. Shulchan Aruch tells you one thing, the Ramah tells you another thing. And the name of Ariel. And then we saw this other Chumrah. Tainis Chalom, for some reason, more Machmir. Even if Shabbos was taken in early by everybody, doesn't matter. Those have to go until Tzeis. So this all follows what we saw above. So where do we get this Ramah thing? I'm going to ask this question over here. The Ramah's words are a little confusing. He holds of opinion B that the Hashlama has to be, you have to keep the fast until it's over. Complete the fast Erev Shabbos. And then he says, but not to complete as usual by waiting for a specific time. Okay? It means it's a Hashlama, a required Hashlama, but it's not Hashlama like it is on a weekday. On a weekday, a fast day, mashlim, the fast means until the time of the clock when the sun goes down, and they extended that to tzeis. On Shabbos, the Hashlama is obligatory, but subjective. It depends when they actually took in Shabbos. You have to complete the fast, but it depends when you took it in. So where did the Rambam get this? Where does Mariel come from? He mentions in Darkei Moshe. That's source 15 over here. I'll jump ahead because like time purposes. Mariel katav the Tanit Tzibur yashlimo ad halayla. Mariel said Tainus Tzibur mashlim ad halayla on Erev Shabbos, disregarding the other Rishonim who said otherwise. About Tanit dachi lo yashlim ela ochel miyad b'tzeito mi beit hakneset. Okay, if it's a Tainus Yachid, he could eat when everybody leaves shul, which allows for eating even while the sun is still shining. But if it's Tainus Tzibur, according to the Maharil, so he did this. Okay, I've got a question over here. So you see that this Maharil opinion, by the way, is the one that seems to carry the day. The calendar makers, like other times when I called them, I said, you see what's in the Beis Yosef. You see all the opinions in the Shulchan Aruch, a specific thing regarding the whole thing with Kiddush Levana. Right? Lots of things the Shulchan Aruch wrote that people just don't understand or not reading inside, and they're not understanding what this word in the Shulchan Aruch even means. They're giving their own interpretation from it. And the calendar makers decide that they're going to take one opinion of the Pri Megadim that's against everything that came before him. And even though the Pri Megadim is generally, let's say, I hate to say it's an Ashkenazi type of sefer, right? They're going to say that all the Sfardim hold of it suddenly against the Shulchan Aruch, which is kind of radical. So I'm not saying that the calendar makers in this case are making things up, but they are ignoring a wealth of information here. So here we go. We had this question. This is point 8 that we're addressing. The Shulchan Aruch has only explicitly addressed personal fast on Friday. Here, the Shulchan Aruch in the actual Reish Mem Tet didn't mention Tanis Tzibur or even Asara B'Teves like he did in the Beis Yosef. In the actual Shulchan Aruch, he only mentioned a Yachid. He has one line. There's one line in the Shulchan Aruch. I'll read that again. Reish Mem Tet. Im kibel lovely the note Erev Shabbat. Sarich li tanot ad tzedek kochavim. Im lo shapiresh b'shak kabbalat tanid ad sheyashlimu tzibur tefilatan. Like the Rush, supposed to fast until tzeis, unless he made a stipulation that the fast would end whenever the tzibur finishes davening, which could be, by the way, while the sun is still shining. But he didn't talk about Tanis Tzibur. Why did he mention, if in the Beis Yosef, he went into this whole discussion about Tanis Tzibur, Asara B'Teves, and 9 Tisha B'Av on Erev Shabbos? That's what Gemara was discussing, by the way, also. Why did the Shulchan Aruch itself leave it out? In the Beis Yosef, he mentioned it. In the Shulchan Aruch, he didn't make mention, as though he assumes that you know what he was talking about. What did the Beis Yosef himself do when he lived in Tzfat on Asara B'Teves? 10 years ago, there was an amazing winter storm here in Eretz Yisrael. You were not here. You were a child. Do you remember it? The Asara B'Teves storm that knocked out the power from the country for more than a day? You don't remember that? How not? You were already past Bar Mitzvah.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. It was 10 years ago. It was December 2013, Asara B'Teves, on a Friday. Yeah, you were. So where were you? Okay, so 10 years ago. It was an amazing winter storm. It was a once-in-a-century winter storm that even brought snow to Egypt.
Oh.
That winter storm where it knocked out the power and no one had heat. Well, and there was like 3 feet of snow outside.
We had snow in Beersheba.
Yeah, you had snow in Beersheba. You had snow in Egypt. Okay, the whole country was paralyzed. It started on Thursday night, the blizzard, and it continued to Friday. No one went to shul Friday morning. It was impossible to get out. There was no power. And by the way, you had power in Beersheba? Oh, good. Maybe it's maybe somehow from Dimona and the nuclear power going on there. For the rest of us here, okay, throughout the Har Merkazi, there was no power. No Yishuv had power. Jerusalem, no power. No power. Okay? It was almost a countrywide power outage. And here, electricity runs, also the water heater. In New York, let's say, your boilers run on natural gas or oil. and also your heating system in the house. So in New York, we never had a power outage, okay? Except for the big power outage that one the in 2003, the Tuba of power outage. Okay, so that was across even parts of Canada. Here in Israel, they had a power outage, and when we don't have your electric heaters don't work, so you have no hot water, you have no light, you have no heat in the house. It was nothing, and it's like freezing outside. So that's what happened here. It's happened before. There's even midrashim about Asara b'teves snowstorms, right? It says Benayo ben Yada went into the Gova Aryeh, went into the pit and slew the lion, right? On the day of Choref, it was cold. As I'll say, it means he was able to dunk in the mikveh when it was really cold. He broke the ice in order to dunk in the mikveh. Okay? It was on Asara b'teves, they say. Asara b'teves, where did the Beis Yosef live? In Tzfat. Safed. Is it cold there? Yes. Okay. It's mountainous. It's like around here, but more. Okay. It's certainly conceivable. You could actually look in the calendar. When the Beis Yosef was living in Tzfat all those years, Asar B'Teves happened on Erev Shabbos, just like it happens to us approximately once every 5 years. So the Beis Yosef experienced many Asar B'Teves on Friday. And it is likely that many of those Asar B'Teves on Friday in Tzfat, where the Beis Yosef were there, were very cold, perhaps rainy, if not snowy, right? Do you think the Beis Yosef was sitting in shul, unlike he's poskened beforehand? He was waiting like we do in a good, let's say, yeshivish type of synagogue for 20 minutes after sunset in order to say Baruch Hu, Kriyas Shema, and then Daven Ma'ariv and walk home in the dark and the cold and the rain? No, absolutely not. It's against everything the Shulchan Aruch says. It's against everything we see in history and all the minhagim we have based on this. Shulchan Aruch always said, Shulchan Aruch says, you take in Shabbos early by davening Ma'ariv after Plag. And that's what you're supposed to do. And if you deny that, read this again. No, Rabbi Tam doesn't have a different top. He doesn't have a different plug. The Magen Avraham has a different plug. Magen Avraham lived more than 100 years after the Beis Yosef. Rabbeinu Tam's plug and all the others zmanim during the day are based on the solar, the Shon Shemesh, the sundial. Plug is measured from Sho Zmaniyot, which is between actual sunrise and actual sunsets. The Magen Avraham's chiddush that those Shaot Zmaniyot are figured from dawn until nightfall. That's his chiddush. Beis Yosef never heard of such a thing. Okay? And by the way, even then, the plug you're trying to say is before sunset. Okay? Yes, well before sunset. Look in the calendars. It's around our plug. Okay?
Oh, so we're still measuring by sundial time?
Well, a sundial would tell you the types of zmanim that are discussed in the Torah. The 3 hours, the 4 hours, plag, mincha gedola, mincha ketana. There are things that you can calculate right now, but also if you're a good Boy Scout or you have a sundial, you could actually mark these things very easily. You know how to use a sundial? You want to make a sundial?
I've seen them, but
okay.
I don't know.
The most basic sundial is a very easy thing to make, and it's very good. That's what they used to use. I'm saying that, just use a stick. You have to plant the stick in the ground, make it nice and flat, make sure you have, it only works, by the way, when it's not cloudy. But I'm saying that these ideas are old. So I take it for granted that the Shulchan Aruch did not stay in shul. And I was trying to tell people this. I said, why did people say gather in shul for normal Mariv on a Asara b'Teves during that snowstorm? The Shulchan Aruch would have told you, if you're gathering in shul, come for mincha at 3. Plag is what, at 3:40 or so? Make sure mincha is done by then. Kabbalah Shabbos, Mariv, right? And go home and have everybody home by 4 or so while there's still sunlight. Because the street lights don't work. It's pitch dark outside. You're going to wait until 5 p.m. to start Mariv? That's 20 minutes after Shkia? That's ridiculous. And also against, historically speaking, what the Shulchan Aruch held all along, and was just following traditions that he received. Okay, in the year 1550 or so, when the Shulchan Aruch, he was in Tzfat by then. He was one of the, he left Spain in 1492 as a child, right, when they expelled all the rest of the Jews from Spain. And he was in, like Greece and Salonika and a place like that until he made his way to Tzfas. And he had Arichas Yomim there in Tzfas, right? So it was a few decades he lived there. So around that time, the mid-16th century, that's what they did. So this is pretty clear. There's a Mishnah Berurah, source 16, where he says, this high Yesh Omrim that the Ramah is mentioning, the the Ramaz, the Mishnah Berurah is clarifying for us. We didn't talk about the Tainus Sibur of Asar B'Teves. The Mishnah Berurah says explicitly, "Kigon Asar B'Teves shechal be'erev Shabbos." This is the Mishnah Berurah. Asar B'Teves erev Shabbos. Our case, lo yitaneh rak ad she'et same yibira knesset. Okay, he shouldn't fast. He should only fast until they leave shul. Mishnah Berurah is saying, explaining the Ramaz opinion. Fast is over. You left shul, and by the way, taking in Shabbos early is always an option. Even though it's not summer, what's preventing you from davening Marv at 3:40 p.m. tomorrow? Next week or tomorrow. Tomorrow's Erev Shabbos. When's the earliest you could daven Marv tomorrow? Plag. About
3:41.
3:41. Oh, fine. 3:41. Check the exact thing. I have to calculate it.
That's what it is.
Hold on. The Mishnah Berurah continues. Da'az kfar kiblu Shabbat b'tfilah shemitpalim yiplag mincha ve'elach. Okay. Umikrei al zeh ayidei zeh hashlamana tanit mashim mitdaneh ad achar kabbalat Shabbat. The Mishnah Berurah is telling you what the Ramah is saying. You have to complete your fast on Asar B'Teves on Erev Shabbos, but completing itself is subjective to what the community does, and that is, if the community accepted Shabbos by davening Mariv right after Plag, so the fast is over. Oh yeah, but the sun is still shining for another hour. And normally I fast on Asar B'Teves until, let's say, the stars come out, and that's the Ramah's opinion. He's telling you, they took in Shabbos, that killed Asar B'Teves. It's Shabbos. Yes, and that's called completing the fast. No, it's called completed the fast. You complete your fast by fasting until Shabbos started, as opposed to the sages who broke their fast before going to shul. We hold you have to complete your fast, shot in the Gemara, but completing your fast itself is subjective. And the Shulchan Aruch is even more lenient. The Shulchan Aruch said completing a fast is optional. So if that's what the Tzibur decided, that the fast will be over when they done davening Mariv on Erev Shabbos, so the fast is over. Either way, when is the fast over? When the Tzibur is done davening Mariv on Erev Shabbos, and that can be extra early. That's the Shulchan. Yeah, you have to repeat Kriyat Shema. I'm very sorry. No, you can, because you're going to be eating even before sunset. You're going to be eating well before it's Zman Kriyat Shema.
Are you allowed to not say Shema with Tzibur? I usually.
If everybody's saying Shema Yisrael, you have to go along with them.
I mean, I do the Shema Yisrael part. But
Oh yeah, okay, fine.
I don't do the whole thing though, because I'm intending that, like, I know you all are doing it like 3 minutes early.
Yes, the Mishnah Berurah says, the Mishnah Berurah mentions this. You saw this Mishnah Berurah, it's in Hilchos Mariv. Okay, the Mishnah Berurah mentions those who know that they shouldn't be saying Kriyat Shema with its brachos, period, if it's too early, even though everybody's doing it, they just do something else. They're quiet. Okay,
yeah.
You know that's what Rosh Yeshiva do, right? When there's a minyan that's davening Mariv early with Beheter on Erev Shabbos, right? Half an hour before Shkia, they're saying Baruch Hu and the Kriyat Shema brachos. Mishnah Berurah says those who are really in the know are not saying anything, because you're not supposed to be saying Kriyat Shema brachos early. They have their Gemara. They have, like I saw my Rabbi Bronspiegel had a Gemara or some other sefer over his sitter. He had his stender there. Everybody had his sitter, but he had a Gemara during Kabbalah Shabbos. Okay, so they're cheating, and they'll say Shmon Esrei with everybody, and then afterwards they'll say Kriyat Shema with its brachas. Okay, let's conclude this Mishnah Berurah over here. Like many other instances, this assumption of the Mishnah Berurah is not without its disputants, by the way. There's certain things that the Shulchan Aruch, that the Mishnah Berurah says, that aren't unanimous. Okay? V'nir pashut l'dada mechaber im chiyuv tanit hayalav mikvar. The Mishnah Berurah says, I take it for granted, pashut, in the Shulchan Aruch's opinion, that if a person already had an obligation to fast, v'ratzah lifro b'tanit erev Shabbos, he took upon himself 40 fasts, right? He took a promise, 40 fasts, and he's going to do one of those fasts on Erev Shabbos. He broke his fast early on Erev Shabbos because the whole tzibur took in Shabbos, so that fast doesn't count. It was supposed to be one of his 40, because he didn't do it completely like all the others. This fast he broke 20 minutes before sunset, and normally fasts until it says, so this doesn't count as one of his 40 fasts, let's say. I don't know. Maybe I disagree with that, Mishnah Berurah. I could show you. There's those who say no. If the Shulchan Aruch says that's a hashlama, that's a hashlama. The Shulchan Aruch would say, "Excuse me, I said that this is a fast day. I said that even Tisha B'Av this would be a cromulent hashlama. So why is it if it's a neder? I understand the pashtus there. Okay, so And it also says something else over here. Da filu das mechaber delo atik b'fnim das haram. Here in the Shulchan Aruch, the mechaber was very short. In the Beis Yosef, you had a lot more opinions. Afilu shom mashmed the sphere lay the zelu mikri yashlama klal b'masha kibul Shabbos vidlato. Okay, according to some opinions, the fact that they accepted Shabbos with with his prayer, that's not considered ashlama. Okay, daf b'isha kibul atzmo tanit mistama. If a person just says tinus mistama, so he has to go until tzeis. But the whole yirtza means when he first took on the tinus, he said, "I'm going to break my fast when everybody accepts Shabbos." That's what he had to have done. Okay, so that all depends. And then he has one last line over here, which is in blue. I think it's more pilpul. Taz Tibor Kona Sarba Tevish Chal Erev Shabbos Mashma Beis Yosef Mitzad Lioros Kaposkim Spir Lahu the Hai Mitani Mishlim the Kamar Gemara Hainu Imir Tzilashlim Rashai. The Mishnah Berurah says, bottom line, I think that when the Mechaber is talking about in this halacha, he holds of those who say that mashlim, the fast and Erev Shabbos itself, is just an option, even on the Sarba Teves. Okay, so that's very good. And the Ramah, if you're machlir Gemara, the Ramah said, no, you have to finish your fast, complete it. What do we see it meant according to the Ramah? If everybody took in Shabbos early, then the fast is over. Okay, so that's why if you had the sources here, I color-coded it whenever you mention anything. So this is a surprise. Moshe, you want to see this. Why? Considering everything we've seen until this point, this is a good conclusion. The Shulchan Aruch, we've saw already what he said in the Beis Yosef, and we have it on good authority, the explanations of the Chafetz Chaim himself. What is the Shulchan Aruch discussing? The Shulchan Aruch himself held that fasting on Erev Shabbos and completing the fast is an option, which means that before the fast started, either the individual is fasting or the tzibur is fasting. If they already stipulated the fast will be considered over, we are going to enter fast, quote unquote, early. That's when we accept Shabbos by davening. That's what the Shulchan Aruch's opinion is. Nafkamina, or how does this play out? When the tzibur takes on a Sarba Teves, they say, by the way, we're going to be davening Mariv on Leil Shabbos at 3:50 p.m., 4 p.m., well before Shkia, and that will kill the fast. That's their right. That's their Hashlama im Yirtzeh. And the Ramah says that for such a case, Hashlama is obligatory, but it is Hashlama that's considered completing the fast when everybody davens Mariv anyways. Hashlama is obligatory, but Hashlama is subjective. So if everybody got together at 4 p.m. and daven Mariv while the sun is still shining, and then wants to say Kiddush, that's considered Hashlama, even though normally it's not. Those are the opinions in the Shulchan Aruch. The Yalkut Yosef is inconsistent in this case because the Yalkut Yosef does not bring this as the halacha. This is an example. Someone asked me, people here have a lot of fealty to two things, Shulchan Aruch and Rabbi Avi Yosef. And I tell them, what do you do when Rabbi Avi Yosef disagrees with Shulchan Aruch? So there's a fellow who used to learn here. He said, Chas v'shalom, there's no such thing. So I showed him, here is a case, a prominent ruling of Rabbi Avi Yosef says it's not like the Shulchan Aruch. What are you going to do with that? No, you must be making this up. Said, read it again. Okay, it actually happens. Just because someone has promised that they'll always follow the Shulchan Aruch, it doesn't mean they actually follow the Shulchan Aruch, right? We follow the Shulchan Aruch all the time, except when we don't. So he couldn't entertain such a thing. Okay, but here it is in black and white. This is from the Yalkut Yosef, and there's nothing wrong with this halacha sefer. He says, "Im chal asara b'tevei erev Shabbos." Here's what he says: Asara b'teves is erev Shabbos. Mitaninu mashlilim hatanit ad seder kochavim. We fast and we complete the fast until Seis, 5 p.m. What was the Shulchan Aruch's opinion? Not that. He said Shulchan Aruch held that Hashlama is an option. And the option is that the tzibur can decide that they're going to daven Mariv early and then end Shabbos. It's not an obligation, Hashlama. Hashlama is a choice. Yeah, so, but he says, he says no, he's not saying that tzibur does that because he then gives a source. He says that this is what they have to do. You read the footnote, he says this is what they have to do. He quotes the Tosfos Shantz. He brings different sources of Shulchan Aruch. Hey, Rabbeinu did the Shapirish Kain. V'dacha devara v'ochiach me'agmara shapirish misanim mishashlim hu shechayav lisanos lishashlim. Chayav, okay? Chayav atzeiso kochavim. Chayav. V'chidvarav nir gambi Rishalmi. Well, the Yerushalmi does say it's something mashlim is obligatory, but it's still subjective. Rabbi Yosef is taking the opinion hashlama is obligatory and objective. There's only one way to mashlim, and that's tzeis. All the other ones who say mashlim, but hashlama is subjective. When did you start Shabbos? Dama Rashba Ritvo Chichu came Bipshara Gemara. Yeah, they said that hashlama is obligatory, but they didn't say hashlama is also objective. All these opinions that we say, yes, they said hashlama is obligatory, but once again, subjective. And so that's why I'm surprised, especially because if you see the page before that in the Yalkut Yosef, what does he have? Straight Shulchan Aruch talking about people who take on their own fast days. Now, there used to be Hasidim. He mentioned this in the tour. There are Hasidim who used to fast every Erev Shabbos. That was their thing. They're, to get ready for Shabbos. Okay? It's not such a Rambam-y thing type to do, but that's why I was very surprised about that. Okay? Well, he goes by, he doesn't say that.
And that's not the thing that comes out.
I would say that if there is no tzibur that does it, it's because they think that they're not allowed to.
Because there's no tzibur, it's
Your circular logic. That's how halacha works nowadays. Circular logic. Whereas before we have pages and pages of Talmudic sources and Rishonim discussing things and explanations of Shulchan Aruch. Now we just use circular logic because that's what they do, because that's what they're supposed to do, because that's what they do, which is terrible. Okay, that's certainly not the way a Talmud Chacham should behave. So, or at least someone who's aspiring to be like the sages. So now I like to bottom line this. If you would just read, let's say, the following sources: Talmud Bavli and Rishalmi, or the Tur, the Beis Yosef, or even just the Mishnah Berurah explaining the Ramah and the Chaber, you come to the unmistakable conclusion that when Asar B'Teves is on Friday, the fast is over when the tzibur is daven mariv. For one of two reasons: either you had to complete the fast, but completing is entirely subjective as to when they daven mariv, or completing the fast was just an option, meaning that they chose to end the fast when they daven mariv. That's it. And the Shulchan Aruch held of the latter opinion, by the way. They chose to. They said when we accept this fast, it's on condition that we will be mashlim, we will not be mashlim. And not be mashlim means we're ending the fast much earlier than we normally would. Normally we end the fast at says this day we're ending the fast when we daven mariv while the sun is still shining. That's what you get from the Shulchan Aruch. Okay, and by the way, this idea that explicitly Asar B'Teves on Erev Shabbos ending early is brought up by many Rishonim. It's explicit in the Shulchan Aruch, in the what do we have here in the Mishnah Berurah, right? It's the subject of discussion in the Torah. It's a Talmudic discussion by another name in two different Masechtas. It's in Tainus and in Erevin. The idea of what if you're fasting on Erev Shabbos? They talked about Yechidim. They talked about Tainus Tzibur. This is something that exists, which surprises me. Give me a share here. I'll share this piece on the screen over here. A letter that was actually written anonymously, a libelous slander against yours truly. That when I was saying this 10 years ago about Asar B'Teves during the snowstorm, that I was making this up. And I can show it to you. Those people see it on the screen. No one, whoever put out this letter, didn't sign it, but also hasn't apologized for a retraction. It says here, Avi Choshev Shehu Mevin Balacha Ma She'af Echad Acher Lo Mevin. Avi thinks that he understands halacha something that no one else did. A chiddush. What's a chiddush? L'dato, in his opinion, talking about me. Gam Lefia Tur Shulchan Aruch V'Nosei Kelim Efshar Lishbor Tzom Asar B'Teves Tzom Gedalia V'Shivasar B'Tamuz B'Flaga Mincha. He thinks that you could break the fasts of Asar B'Teves Tzom Gedalia and Shivasar B'Tamuz at Plaga Mincha. I did say such a thing. I was quoting it from the Shulchan Aruch, and I said on Erev Shabbos. Never said that on regular weekdays. On a regular weekday, we said, when is the fast over? Plaga Mincha or Tzeis. Shkia or Tzeis. We said this many times. He's also certain that that's what they used to do. I'm not certain. It's explicit in the Beis Yosef that way. He brings up the case of Asar B'Teves and Erev Shabbos. Okay? This is explicit. So this is like changing a little bit of the context and saying I made this up. I don't know. It's anonymous. but you could go see it. Okay,
Why did you like?
spite.
Listening to you.
Might have been. This is already from some years ago. But you can see that if someone would say such thing, I made this up. I certainly did not make this up. Okay, it just means that whoever wrote that was looking at the calendar and says, Asara B'Teves, it says the fast is over at Seis. So it must be, if you told me that there's this whole thing that you could accept Shabbos at Plaga Mincha, and that would kill the fast, I must be making this up. Even though it's where? It's Siman Reish Mem Tes and Orach Chaim. So you could be forgiven if you don't have a copy of Orach Chaim or a Mishnah Berurah, which say it explicitly. But the fact is, if whoever's writing this is supposed to be knowledgeable about this, it's two Gemaras. It's in Yerushalmi, it's a Bavli. It's a discussion of the Beis Yosef in the Torah. And not only that, let's conclude.
Did you say that though when you put it out? Did you?
No, I didn't get to see it. I got it afterwards. Here, look at this.
No. Like when you put it out, did you say, "Oh, this is my source"?
Yeah, and
And
you
then
know
they
what?
just didn't
Hold
double
on.
check it.
I put this out online
Yeah.
10 years ago. You could check my blog. It has a timestamp. It's dated to right after the snowstorm on Asara B'Teves. So I was trying to tell people that what we could have done is we could have made it easier on ourselves.
So they just flat out didn't check what you wrote down. They just
It's right there, and it says it. This is taken Shulchan Aruch and Tur Beis Yosef Reish Mem Tet, but the calendar says otherwise. I will now read you what the Pri Megadim says. Okay, the Pri Megadim. You know the Pri Megadim, right? This is Eshel Avraham and Reish Mem Tet. Let's read what the Pri Megadim says. Okay. Okay, Yud Tinus Sibor. Have Yodea. Be you know this. Okay. The Achar Kabbalah Shabbos Hava Hashlama. After Kabbalah Shabbos, that's Hashlama. You've completed your fast. You say you have to complete the fast. Kabbalah Shabbos, you completed your fast. Hainu bi plag hamincha ve'elach. From plag hamincha on. He says it's 9 teshos and mechza. It should be sartros and mechzas manios. He says plag mincha, but then there's a mistake in here. It says he's defining mincha katana. By the way, he says, know this. Hashlama is Kabbalah Shabbos from Plaga Mincha on. Ayin Beis Yosef Hazeh HaKodem Hazeh Av Shekibel Shabbos Kodem Tfilas Arvis Achar Mincha Lo Mahani. If it's before Plag, doesn't work. There's no such thing as Mariv before Plag. But if you have Mariv after Plag, that's Hashlama. And he says, see Siman Reish Samech Zayin. And he gives the example. Did anybody here know what Kaf Sivan is? You heard of Tinus Kaf Sivan? It was in the old days. I think it's from because of the Crusades. It's mentioned at the end of Hilchos Tinus in the Ramah. There's a simon there, other fast days, minor fast days that different communities had, right? So Kaf Sivan, once upon a time, was a serious fast day. Minhag Ashkenaz, just like Erev Rosh Hashanah. You know anybody who fasts Erev Rosh Hashanah? Oh, you still do? Well, half. But it's a serious deal, right? People fast. There's a lot of fast days that have fallen. You know, we're much more weaklings, but it used to be there are more fast days on the calendar. The difference between the Rosh Hashanah fast, the Erev Rosh Hashanah fast, and Kaf Sivan is Erev Rosh Hashanah is Mitam Tshuva, just the extra day to fast. Kaf Sivan was pogroms and things like that. Okay, so he says here, Imit Pali Mariv Mi Plag ve'elach. If they're davening Mariv from Plag and on, Rasha'im le'echol be'erev Shabbos im kiblu kach ata alehem. Okay, when they had this Kaf Sivan fast in Erev Shabbos, it's considered hashlama, and they can eat if they daven Mariv after Plag. Oh, it makes sense. Oh, really? It makes sense. Well, some would say, we saw the opinion, the Mariel said, whatever, you took on a fast day, you got to daven it until stays, because that's what you normally do. Okay, but still, we saw the Mahariel himself also said, yeah, there's an opinion here and there that says it, but the mainstream opinion is, like the Prince Gomes said, know this. You daven Mariv after Plag and Erev Shabbos, the fast is over. Yeah, and there were some Tanaim who said you can't even fast before Shabbos. And if it was Tisha B'Av and Erev Shabbos, what do you got to do before Shabbos comes in? Before you go to shul, eat something, drink something, because you're going to Shabbos Me'uneh. Okay, so we'll conclude here and say that if anybody wants to join me, we're going to try. If Chas v'Shalom, we have a fast day on Erev Shabbos next week, we're still going to take in Shabbos early. We're going to have a minyan with us, like we normally do during the summer. We will daven Mariv at 3:40 p.m. or so, right after Plag, Mincha right before Plag, and then we'll have Kiddush and we'll break our fast. For those who don't want to spend their Friday fasting, Why? Because the Shulchan Aruch says so, not me. Have a good week. Have the rest of your happy Hanukkah, a victorious Hanukkah, and may the war end soon. May we see the destruction of Am Yisrael's enemies within and without speedily in our days. Be well.
We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. If you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.